Hey, it's Writing Wednesdays with Mary. Welcome back to class. Let's continue where we left off.
Hi, welcome back. I'm Mary Billiter. I'm a local writer and fiction instructor at the local community college here in Wyoming. I pointed as if you knew that the community college was that way. So I've been talking about how social distancing is tough for extroverts, for introverts, for all of us. However, during this COVID break, I thought, why not condense my 6-week course that I teach through the outreach program at our local community college, again that way, into little nuggets, 10 minutes I'm hoping, they might be shorter, just to give you the tools to move forward in your craft. So we have been using, I have been using Bullet in the Brain by Tobias Wolff as my example, because it's a amazing short story written by a phenomenal author, and he integrates what I have called a golden scene, the elements that comprise a golden scene, in this nugget of a piece. So the golden scene, as a recap, as a former journalist, we learn the 5 W's and an H: who, what, where, when, why, and how. However, in fiction writing, it's who, what, where, when, once, and how. There's a lot of differences between fiction and journalism, and there's a lot of similarities. The important thing with both is grabbing the reader right away, right? And holding their attention. And how do we do that? I'm a very impatient reader. I'm a slow reader too, but I'm also impatient. And I think that the more that we turn to social media, which I'm doing right now, for our news and for everything, the more we get things instantaneously. So writing in the 21st century, I think, tends to have to reach that audience that doesn't have a lot of time. And if they are investing time into reading, they want that escapism, that time that they're devoting to it, to be worth it. To do that, I found through my writing, in June, my 16th book is coming out, The Divided Twin, that I wrote with my son. It's a work of fiction. It's the first collaborative effort I've ever had. That was interesting. It was good, interesting, but wow. But what I found in that period of writing is the key elements that move and progress the story forward. And if you have these in each of your chapters, then your chapters can build upon each other and keep going to the finish line. When we're hitting that sagging middle, or we're wondering if our opening is working, come back to this. This can be a checklist for you. The golden scene. Who is character? Oh, and as I said, Bullet in the Brain by Tobias Wolff. It's all in the link section. So the who is character, and Tobias Wolff does an amazing job creating Anders right up front, and we know he's a book critic who's very critical of his life and of other people and the situations around him. The plot is that he has arrived, he's a book critic, he has arrived to the bank right at closing time, and he gets one final memory after he is shot in the head by bank robbers. So that's our kind of our spoiler there. And then the where is, we know it's in a bank. So he creates tone when it's happening current day. He creates not only the when of our setting of when it's happening, but he also gives us tone, what the tone of the story is. So some stories you can start reading, you're like, oh, it's gonna be a romance, right? Just, you get the, you just know. You can know from the cover, but even if you didn't see the cover, you could just start reading it and you're like, oh, this is gonna be good. This is gonna end well. I like this. There's also ones that, right when you pick it up and you read the first line, you're like, oh, this is gonna keep me up at night and give me nightmares. Also good. So tone is super important because it sets the tone for the book, right? Just like a movie, just like music, there's a tone to it. The Grateful Dead, my husband is a big music aficionado. The Grateful Dead is really different from the Rolling Stones. Still amazing, but different, right? So tone is an important element in art. And for writers, I feel it's the author's ability to to put their own stamp on it. So the wants is theme. What does the character want and why? Remember how I said it's usually who, what, where, when, why? Well, we have why and wants. By knowing the theme, we know what the wants are of the character, and we know why they have these wants. That's super important in developing a three-dimensional, a full story where you're seeing that character development go from Anders, this really cynical book critic, to when he gets shot in the head, which obviously is a pivotal moment. So when Anders is dead, we get to look into his mind and what he remembers. This is what he remembered: heat, a baseball field, yellow grass, the whir of the whirl. I cannot talk right now. A baseball field, yellow grass, the whir of insects, himself leaning against a tree as the boys in the neighborhood gather for a pickup game. He looks on as the others argue the relative genius of Mantle and Mays. They have been worrying this subject all summer, and it has become tedious to Anders, an oppression like the heat. Then the last two boys arrive, Cole and a cousin of his from Mississippi. Anders has never met Cole's cousin before and will never see him again. He says hi with the rest, but takes no further notice of him until they've chosen sides, and some ask the cousin which position he wants to play. Shortstop, the boy says. Short's the best position they is. Anders turns and looks at him. He wants to hear Cole's cousin repeat what he's just said, but he knows better than to ask. The others will think he's being a jerk, ragging the kid for his grammar. But that isn't it at all. Not at all. It's that Anders is strangely roused, elated by those final two words, their pure unexpectedness and their music. He takes the field in a trance, repeating them to himself. Short's the best position they is. So in the final moment for Anders, his wants and his why is to go back to that summer day on the baseball field where the they is in life was what Anders lost when he grew up and became an adult. Shortstop, best position they is. He wants to go back to that innocence, those field of dreams, right? And what happens is he loses this and life becomes dull as adulthood becomes just another book to criticize. So the theme in this, as I interpret it and share, is the theme becomes the struggles of growing up, the change in attitude in adulthood, the loss of childhood, and living in a world of imperfect human beings, which Anders walks into and has spent his whole life making his life's work about, is seeing everything that's wrong with it, when what he really wants is to go back to that innocence. He wants to go back to those summer days before he became so jaded. So it's really, really great. The tone changes, right? It starts where it's really cynical and jaded, and we're like, you're laughing at Anders because you're like, oh my gosh. Sometimes you're laughing out of embarrassment. Sometimes it's just really good dialogue. And then the setting doesn't change until it does. The setting is in the bank until he gets shot in the brain, and then the setting shifts and the tone shifts. And the setting, all of a sudden we're in a baseball field. We're at a baseball field, and you know, can't you just see this pickup game and these young boys, and they're just having this great time? So the setting changes, which changes the tone, which reveals the wants of this character and why, what's driving them. It's pretty amazing. All of this in a short story. Okay, we will, when we conclude this amazing COVID break on how to write, we'll address how. Okay, see you next time. Bye.